here at Alice Hall. We took in the practices as well, practicing early these days. The last couple of years, I think under Eberflus, they were more like 11 a.m., 11:30. They're up at 9:30. They're out there.
Good. So maybe they can spend a little extra time in the classroom afterwards as well, or going over some film. I don't think that's a bad thing.
When I heard Cap today on Cap and Hoodie say that he didn't think that Caleb was going to play, I knew that was
connected the dots.
That was knowledge based. I was pretty certain, so I was expecting that announcement today, and I did the poll question that you can vote on online on my Twitter handle, brought to you by your local Chicagoland Toyota dealers. Did the Bears make the right call by electing to not play any starters in the Hall of Fame game? We have about 1,300 votes, so you can still shape the voting here. And most people, Waddle, believe it or not, going with the Bears.
Oh, yeah. That doesn't surprise me at all. I think that the perspective we have is seen by most as the old man screaming at the clouds perspective, and you're not moving forward with the game. And I just don't agree with it in different circumstances. Like, I understand why the Texans won't play CJ Stroud. I totally do.
Well, he's in a different,
of course,
learning stage.
Right. Like, and again, I'm not, this isn't about exposing your guys to injury. I've made it very clear why I would put Caleb Williams out there because of the situation. You're coming from an environment where you didn't huddle, you didn't call plays, you didn't come out of the huddle, you were never under center. You are in an entirely different environment now in terms of the structure and the procedure, not to mention the speed of the game with the being in the NFL. And even if you are just turning around and handing it off, I don't think it can hurt to go through, standing, getting a call in through your headset from Shane Waldron, getting into the huddle, calling a play, getting to the line of scrimmage, getting used to 25-second play clock, getting the cadence and all of your guys, acclimated to how you call, your cadence, and running a play, and then getting back in a huddle.
Sure.
And getting the play from the sideline and getting, can you
and
practice
hand it off to
Sure.
Khalil Herbert?
Sure.
Hand it off to
Absolutely.
Roshan Johnson.
Yeah.
Maybe run a screen, something like that.
And I don't want to hear again, you could say if you want, Teddy Bridgewater is the last guy that did the starting. I don't care. I don't even care who Teddy was playing with. These are the Bears. This is a different situation. It's different circumstances.
I think every day's a learning chance. Like, would you say Caleb shouldn't practice tomorrow?
No,
every rep's important.
Yes,
yeah. Well,
course.
so if he should practice tomorrow, why shouldn't he play on Thursday?
I'm with you.
Tell me why he shouldn't.
I don't. The only thing I can guess.
What's the argument for that?
The only thing I can guess is that you would be exposing him to injury in a game that doesn't matter.
I want the line again to build some chemistry, and they've got to get like you said, procedural stuff. You can do it in a way where you won't put him in harm's way.
I can tell you this by watching one practice. That offensive line is not gelled and set yet. Nate Davis isn't out there. Braxton Jones is still working through some things. You don't know who's going to play right guard. Is it Ryan Bates? Is Shelton going to be your center? Or are you going to put different? Is Carter going to be in there? Like Tevin Jenkins? I give him a lot of credit today. Got banged up at one point, came back in. He shooed everyone off. I'm good. I'm going to stay in. But I would say this to you, and with a group that isn't getting a pass rush on the other side of Montez Sweat, at the point of attack, in my humble opinion, the defense is winning the day.
Yeah.
So, there's plenty of time. Don't get me wrong. My optimism hasn't changed. I just think it's this concept of, this is a meaningless game. The circumstances, time and place. If this was Patrick Mahomes or CJ Stroud or whoever the case may be, if this was Jared Goff, I'd say, fine, you don't need that. Our guy is stepping into a new environment with even the simplest of football things.
And let's face it, we're not comparing apples to apples either when we call back the Hall of Fame game comps either. You shouldn't compare past years and say, well, these teams didn't play their quarterback, so therefore the Bears shouldn't. The Bears are in a unique situation. But number two, when did they cut the preseason down to 3? The Hall of Fame game used to be the 5th.
Yeah.
preseason game for these teams.
Right.
They used to get 4 other chances
Yeah.
to start rookie quarterbacks and other quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Remember, this is the way the Bears are getting a preseason on the way it used to be. The way it used to be is your starters would always play a couple of series in the first game.
Yes.
You'd play more in the second. The third would be the biggest, quote, dress rehearsal. And then the fourth, you really wouldn't play because you've gotten it all. You're prepared. But again, so like I just think, again, it's not the end of the world. Don't get me. It's not the end of the world.
Listen, you got to have a thought. You asked me a question.
Yeah,
should they play? My answer is yes, and I've given you a reason. You may disagree with the reason, but I got to tell you too. Like maybe you're an old football soul, and you deep in your heart, because everybody I've talked to has that like Tom Thayer and Mark Carrier and others it's the same response. It's not we need to go back to the old days. It's in this circumstance with this situation, these are meaningful snaps. You only get a certain amount of time with your guys now too. It wasn't like back in the day, you had morning practice, you had afternoon practice.
That's what I mean.
Like there is so much less, opportunity to be out there practicing and getting used to things before the season begins, that I just don't think you can take moments like this for granted. But
I'm with you.
It doesn't mean that they won't get out there against the Titans and everything won't run smoothly. I'm not saying that. That's not what I'm saying.
I think they are practicing at a better pace.
Yes,
they're practicing longer than they did last year.
I was very surprised by how long they stayed out there today. I agree with you.
62.8% of you say yes, the Bears did the right call by not playing their starters in the Hall of Fame game. We're with the 37.2%. Again, I think it's a misdemeanor. I think even low. I don't even think it's a misdemeanor. I think to me, it's a ticket. I would, if I was coaching the team, I would say, Caleb, get ready for the game. Prepare like you're playing the first couple of series. Get dressed like you're playing in the first couple of series. Lead the team on the field like
What's
you're playing.
What's the downside to doing
No, none of it. And warm up like you're preparing for a football game. You don't have a lot of chances to do all of this. Get the team in a huddle, break the huddle, get the snaps with your offensive line. And I also think this Nate Davis injury, no matter which direction they're going to go, if they're getting Nate Davis back in a week, in 2 weeks, and they do put him back at guard, or if they elect not to give him his starting job back, that you're doing a disservice with whoever the starting center is.
Of course.
We've been worried about the center. So if the center is Bates now is getting all the reps at guard.
Right.
Because
Shelton doesn't play guard. He plays center.
Right. Yeah. Because so if Bates is your center and Nate Davis can't play, Bates is also your, quote, swing guard. Right. So your starting center is also your most versatile guard. So now he's out there at guard, not getting the reps as your center. And I've always thought it's very important to have that steady hand at center with anybody, especially a rookie quarterback.
Yeah.
And like, I want as many reps as possible. It's why I just felt why getting a real center was so important and not playing the game. Did you get Ryan Bates to be your plug and play guy at wherever position a guy is out? Or is he your center? If he's your center and your best option, let him play center.
You're preaching to the choir. Yeah, it's
but again, like,
listen, and it's not by coincidence either that when you have the pre-snap penalties and there was a delay of game and then there was an offensive line jump, it didn't happen with the 2s and 3s, because I would surmise that whether it's Bajent or it's Rippon or it's one of the other guys, they're more used to calling plays in a huddle. They're used to the standard procedure, whether it was at your collegiate level or in the NFL. When they're having their pre-snap penalties, it's with the ones. And, again, I'm not suggesting that this will be an issue when the season begins, but these are all opportunities, and the opportunities are much more limited than they used to be to work on these types of things. And look, the reason we mention is because we want this thing to be rolling when the opening season begins. And maybe I'm just a little bit scarred still, because I still will cite the loss to the Green Bay Packers last year in the opening game of the season as the most devastating loss of the year. And that's just, factoring in some games that they had an opportunity to win and couldn't put it away. That game, I believe, set the tone, not just for that week or the week after for like the first month plus of the season. I thought that set the tone, and I don't want to see that, especially with a young quarterback who's got a tremendous amount of ability.
It's not just me being scarred. It's also the way I feel like you bring along a rookie quarterback who, as you laid out, hasn't done all of it. So give him some of these reps.
There's no question. And again, he's going to make some mistakes. Like if you'd asked me to evaluate what I saw today, the one thing that I'm very excited about is ball comes out quicker. I think he's learned from some of the stuff he saw in OTAs and minicamp. For the most part, I thought the ball did come out quicker. I thought there were a couple of good connections with Rome Odunze out there.
He's looking good.
It's uneven, though. It really is.
Yeah, that's that's the buzzword. That most of the reporters that Joniak and I had that same word. Carmen looked at me uneven. He said uneven.
Yeah. Which is expected.
Yes. The defense is ahead of the offense. Yeah. He's had a very inconsistent practice as a whole.
Yeah.
But again, you'll still see those throws. He had a deep throw to DJ Moore that he just put right there on his fingertips. He had the 2-minute drill that was between two defenders for a touchdown to Rome Odunze. He had the 2-point conversion to Rome Odunze in the other corner of the end zone.
You see the flashes.
But the majority of the plays, like he sailed the ball that was picked off by Brisker, I believe it was.
Yeah. He bounced a wide receiver screen.
Yes.
There's an uneven performance.
But nothing again to panic about.
No, absolutely not. This is what I expect. I mean, again, that defense is ahead of that offense. And this is kind of what you would expect. There are going to be highs and there are going to be lows, and you got to work through all of this stuff. But there are definitely signs that this can be a special group offensively. They're just going to have to iron some things out and find their stride.
All right. If you want to weigh in on the conversation, what do you think? Is it no big deal? Would you, if you were the coach, would you start Caleb Williams and at least the line? We're not talking about DJ Moore. We're not talking about Keenan Allen, but we're talking about the backup running backs and the starting offensive line with the quarterback, and just run some smart plays to get him in and out of the huddle and to prepare for a real game. Because again, the Hall of Fame game used to be the 5th preseason game. It's no longer that. It's the 4th now. And it's what it used to be. 332-3776. If you have any questions about what we've seen at training camp, we're happy to answer any of those.